Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome back after a short break, and you're watching Sisters Corner. And I have a lovely guest, Taniya, Sister Taniya, with me. And she has worked as a social worker, she's a writer, and she is helping people to transform their life. And she has worked in criminal justice as well. So we are getting a lot of information from Sister Taniya today. And I would like to go a little bit more in detail about her work. And I would like to discuss about your book. You have written a book called Dancing with Darkness. So what this book is all about?
Okay, so this book is about a 12-year-old girl. Her name is Tamara Alvi, and her father is Shia, and her mother is Sunni, and she grows up in South London. And at the age of 12, she is sexually abused by her father. And she blocks the memory, she buries it deep down. She does well in her studies somehow and becomes a social worker. And it's really about her healing journey. She's a fictional character. It's about her healing journey of how she heals herself. So she's very good at healing others, being a social worker, but she isn't very good at dealing with her own trauma and how that actually affects her life. And the book was actually inspired when I actually started this book because I was very devastated by a client of mine who was murdered. I had been working with this client from the age of 15, I think it was up until he was 18. And I then stopped working with him. He was transferred to probation. And he was sadly murdered I think it was the 10th of June, 2019, where London saw a lot of young people being murdered that weekend. And I was devastated. And I then started writing this book. The book was in a very different form than it was about to do with my creative struggles. And it's really, when I say dancing with darkness, literally, I think a lot of us are dealing with our own darknesses, but we tend to kind of just dance with those, and the light is already within us, but the light can only be found when you dance with your darkness.
And so very, very deep. Very deep. I have to actually go a little bit in detail. This is a very, very deep line actually. And it's, sometimes it happens that we are very good to deal with other people's struggle, to help them, but we find it hard to deal ourselves, which is very important because ourselves has to be on priority. Am I right? Yeah?
Yeah.
And that is where, it comes up like how we can play with our own darkness and how we can come out and help others.
Yeah, because to know yourself is to know your cherisher and sustainer. That's what the Prophet ﷺ said. But not very many people take the time to know themselves. And your relationship to yourself is one of the important relationships, not just your relationship to God, but your relationship with yourself is just as important. And in fact, the two are very linked. Your relationship with yourself and the relationship with God are very interlinked. And the story of Tamara Alvi is really her story of healing. And although she is fiction, she meets me. She meets me because I after I start my business and I become like her transformational coach. So it's all about transformational coaching and how that is very different from therapy. It's very different from taking medication. How when you're at dis-ease, you need to have that very holistic approach of looking at the mind, looking at the heart, looking at the soul, and looking at your gut. And they're all extremely, looking at the body, they're all extremely related. And dancing with darkness, we all have that darkness within us. We all have those shadows within us. and we all have that light within us. And the mystics are very familiar with the dancing, and literally this book sort of came to me. I was inspired to write this book, and the fictional character was just basically dictating the book to me. It felt very like I was channeling something, and I have really enjoyed writing this book. It's been therapy for me, actually, and I really hope that the book is like, it's not like, I hope the book becomes your friend.
Oh, that's a big thing. Sister Taniya, I would like to ask you a kind of funny but real question.
Yeah.
I think, how did you manage to do all these hard things, like being a social worker, then transforming people's lives, working in a criminal justice? How it comes?
I think it's all related. It all kind of just makes sense because I enjoy. I don't think I could do all of these things if I didn't enjoy them. So writing, I've enjoyed since I was like a teenager. I've written lots of poetry. I really enjoyed writing this book, although I did it like on trains, planes, whenever I had the time. But it's like enjoyable for me. I don't think I'd do it if it wasn't enjoyable. And again, working with young people in the criminal justice system, I really do enjoy it. A lot of people will think, well, why in the hell do you enjoy it? But working with young people, when you see how they are when they first come in, and how they are when they're leaving, and some of them have got qualifications, some of them have got jobs, some of them are no longer offending, that light when they're leaving, my service is just so bright, whereas when they came in they had this dullness, they didn't have any hope. And being a transformational coach, I don't work with children and young people in that capacity for my online consultancy. I work with adults, and I prefer to work with adults because actually adults have their own inner child, they have their own inner adolescence. Using all my experience, my 30 years of experience working with children and young people, it's very easy for me to just say, well, actually what you're talking about, you're actually, can you come and tell me the truth, because you're actually acting like a child or you're acting like an adolescent here. And because I'm able to just name it there and then, people don't tend to kind of mess around with me, and I'm able to just say how it is, and they tend to respect that. And that's what facilitates the transformation very quickly, because I'm able to identify that problem that they've had for all their lives, not the problem they think that they have. So, if the problem is that they need to reconnect with their spouse, I just basically say, well, that's your problem. Your problem isn't what you think it is. Your problem isn't with your teenager. The problem is that you haven't been reconnecting with your spouse, or the problem is you haven't been reconnecting to God. So I do so much because I love doing it, and I also am really very good at also taking care of myself and being there for myself and being there for my family, because life needs to be a balance. So writing is like playing for me, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's very good. Honestly, it's not only changing or transforming their life. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like changing the whole concept of their life or their thoughts. Yeah, and it's a big deal.
Yeah,
what you're doing. What sort of cases mostly you have in like young age children, or mostly what sort of cases you get?
As a social worker,
yeah,
the cases are, they can be murder, rape, mm-hmm. to that's like the very high end, mm-hmm. And then you can also have theft of a mobile phone, because they're just not quite in the criminal justice system. They've just been found with a knife. They're not quite in it. Some like public order. They basically, smash some, windows on a bus. So it can range from like very, what's considered not very dangerous or low-end crime to very high-end crime. So I'm dealing with the whole spectrum of crime. But what I find is I don't see the criminal when I have a young person in front of me. I see a young person. I see a child.
Yeah. Okay, if I want to ask you one main reason, what do you think the main reason is for the children to come into crime? What it would be?
There isn't one main reason. Crime, the reason why children commit crimes is a multiple of reasons, and each case is very different. Crime is a multi-layered issue. Knife crime is a multi-layered issue, and each case is different. I've had young people who had a loss. They lost their parent, or they lost their sibling, or they lost somebody very close to them, and that's why they ended up doing crime. I've had young people that were in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong person, and they ended up in the criminal justice system. I've had people who, deliberately did that crime, or they've grown up in, because their parents were doing crime. It's so different, and each case is different, and I never tend to sort of like say, well, that's that person, and then that, you have to respect each case as a different case and respect that story. Everybody comes with a story. There's a story behind every crime, and then you need to find out what that story is. And I suppose being a writer, I'm really into stories.
So as you have discussed, you are a poet as well. Do you remember any of your poetry? Would you like to read to us? All the sisters are watching you. And I think that would be great to listen.
Oh my God. There is actually, if I'd known this, I would have prepared. So there is some poetry in the book. So there's a lot of poetry in the book, but I can
maybe 2 lines.
I can probably recite some Urdu poetry that's probably coming to my mind.
Sure.
Just a few lines.
Yeah.
It's called Ye Khazan ke patte kya keh rahe hain, lagta hai meri dil ki baat bata rahe hain. And then I'm just going to leave it at that.
Oh, ये खिज़ां के पत्ते क्या कह रहे हैं? यूँ लगता है कि मेरे दिल की बात बता रहे हैं. Yeah. Very nice, beautiful. That's really good. We will go for your workshops you're doing for writing, learning, the roadmaps, and then becoming about, best selling writer or author.
Okay, so my dream, I always had this dream of writing a book, and my book is going to be out very, very soon on Amazon called Dancing with Darkness.
Wow.
And I always had this dream, and life got in the way. Obviously, running my own business as a transformational coach, I call myself the Muslim alchemist, and that is kind of a big, massive responsibility. But we're all alchemists. Being a social worker, working 4 days a week with some very, very stressful and tough cases, complicated cases, and also being a mum. Being there for my family, and life got in the way. But I always had this thing that I wrote Dancing with Darkness. Actually, I finished it in 2019 when my client was murdered, and it was just parked in one place. And I decided not to re-edit it or redraft it. I was busy building a business. But recently, in 2024, I actually lost a lot of people that were close to me. And I kept thinking, I don't want to die not having written a book. That's like, I want to leave this world having written something. I had to sort of like share these sort of like transformations that I'm able to have facilitated for a lot of my clients in my business, and also share what it means to be a social worker, what social workers navigate every day, the kind of stresses that they navigate. And so my dream has really been able to be fulfilled because of my friend Mirav, who is the main lead for this the writing, publishing, and becoming a best-selling author workshop, which is happening in central London on Saturday, the 26th of April. And we have some places, and it's for aspiring authors that always, like me 6 months ago, had this calling. They've always had this calling, but to write a book, but life gets in the way. They don't have the right, they don't feel that they've got the time. They don't feel like they've got like the right environment. So we're providing you with the right environment with myself and Mirav, who she is a 10 times international best-selling author, and she's helped hundreds of writers write their book very fast and then become published, self-published on Amazon, and then become all the authors that she's worked with, hundreds that she's worked with, all of them have become international best-selling authors. And that opens up doors, because your message, your story, your course, your framework, your expertise gets a wider audience. And it's her unconventional methods and some of my unconventional methods that I will be sharing at that workshop, and it's an in-person workshop, it's not online, means that you can write your book very fast. Majority of your book, half of your book, a little bit of your book in those 6 hours that you're with us. Because when I attended Mirav's online workshop, I wrote my prologue in 20 minutes. It just came from, I channeled it from somewhere, another realm. And that prologue is in my book unedited. So she's a powerhouse, Mirav. And I will also be there exploring the shadows that come up. Because when you write a book, it means that I don't think I could have done this if my book hadn't been birthed, be on TV, and kind of be so forthright and be as open. Because a book, when you birth a book, you don't write the book writes you. I think writers will really understand that. And so basically Mirav is like the midwife of books. She helps you deliver that book, and she has helped writers write it in 6 hours, 3 days, 3 months. Mine was 6 months, but I'm sure if I wasn't doing all these other things, I probably would have written it 3 days. So we're making this really beautiful environment in a very creative. We've got a light lunch for you. We'll have refreshments. We've got guest speakers. And if you have always wanted to write a book, but life got in the way, and you want to just take a day out of your busy life to write that book that is, your soul is being like nudging, pushing, calling, screaming at you, please come to this writing workshop and just email me at contact@taniyahussain.org. So that's CONTACT, contact at Taniya, TANIYA, Hussain, HUSSAIN.org, and I will give you the details. There are some places, and usually to write a book and publish a book and kind of have that roadmap, we will give you that roadmap about self-publishing, becoming bestseller. It's about, what was it, £3,000 to £5,000, but we're not charging you £3,000 to £5,000. It's less than £1,000 that we're charging. And if you email me, I can even get it for you a lot more cheaper. So please, if you're watching this and you really want to write that book, you want to have your message, your story out there, you want to own your voice, you want to own your story, you want to own your power, this is the way. This is the way. People love books. They're still reading books. And a book it's like your friend. It's like there that you can just have in your hand, or you can listen to.
Obviously, I think writing a book is not only writing a book. It is all about your emotions, your feelings, your experience, about the community, or your up and down. What did you do in your life? And this is sort of like attaching and engaging activities explaining in the book as well. So it is linked with your feelings. It can be linked with your feelings or people around you as well. So I think I should be writing a book as well, Sister Taniya.
Oh wow!
Could you help me?
Come to the workshop, Uzma. You're invited. Yeah. And a book doesn't necessarily have to be a story. Mm-hmm. It could be your expertise that you're sharing.
Yeah.
Right.
Experience.
It could be your experience. It could be like people are inventing modalities all the time. I've actually got my own modality. It's called paceology. When you know how to pace yourself and you speed up in some areas of your life, but you slow down in other areas of your life. So the areas that you speed up in, you slow down in those areas, and the areas that you slow down in, you speed up in those areas. And that's what leads to those rapid transformations that I am, you know, I facilitate. Those transformations, we are all alchemists are really those that transform the crap into gold. But we are all alchemists, not just me. I'm not just, you know, I say I'm the Muslim alchemist, but we're all alchemists. Every single human being has that power and that ability, but we've forgotten that power and that ability.
Sister Taniya, I think I wish I can continue my show and be sitting with you next 2 hours because I'm lost in your talks. Very good discussion is going on. I hope all the sisters are enjoying the show, but here is a time to end, unfortunately. But I would like to say a huge thank you for Sister Taniya for coming in today's show.
I enjoyed it.
One advice, what would you like to give to the audience, to the sisters?
The advice that I'd give is be honest with yourself. Always be honest with yourself. Always listen to your thoughts and your feelings. Don't push them down. Don't kind of think, well, you know, what will people think and what will people say? Be honest, because those thoughts and feelings are really important. Honor them. Honor your feelings. Feel your feelings. In this very, very technological world, we tend to try to look for solutions, and we're not feeling, we're just thinking. But it's really important to feel.
A very good message from Sister Taniya, and this is very important, being honest to yourself. Obviously, हम जब तक अपने आप के साथ जो है ना ऑनेस्टी से पेश नहीं आते, हम दूसरों के साथ ऑनेस्टी से पेश नहीं आ सकते हैं। और यही हमारी ज़िंदगी का एक किरदार भी होना चाहिए कि दूसरों के साथ हम उस वक्त ही ऑनेस्ट हो सकते हैं जब अपने लिए ऑनेस्ट होते हैं। तो अपने ऊपर, अपनी प्रायोरिटीज़ के ऊपर, अपनी लाइफ के ऊपर भी गौर कीजिए। इसी के साथ अपनी मेज़बान उज़मा खान को दीजिए इजाज़त। अगले हफ्ते एक और स्पेशल गेस्ट के साथ हाजिर खिदमत होंगी। तब तक के लिए अल्लाह हाफ़िज़।